There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. We have got a really cool story to tell you, and it involves a mom and her daughter, and we're going to get into all of that. But and I promise everybody, it's a positive, happy ending. And so, Janelle Martin is with us, and Janelle, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm awesome, thank you. See, I've got this, show. It's called Positive Talk, and I'm supposed to be awesome all the time. But it's actually pretty easy for me, especially when I get to talk to someone like you, who is having bright days, and even when we were talking about your summer earlier, and we won't go into details, but sometimes life has its way of throwing things at you that may not be all perfect, but it's how you deal with them and how you go work through them that make it important. And you have done that. You have done a remarkable job, and I'm willing to bet. Well, I don't know how old she is now, but how old is she, by the way, your daughter?
She'll be 25 in about 10 days.
So in 25 years ago, I'm sure, did not think when she was born that 17 years later you would have to be doing some real intervention work for her so that she could live her life. But now the sunshine is out. So, and you've also written a couple of books about it, and the one that I want to focus on is called Losing Her, Finding Us. And is that book out, by the way, yet?
Yes, it came out on June 24th this summer.
June 24th. So it's just been out a month and a half or so.
Yep.
And so typically you don't get a lot of results this quickly after a book's been published. Have you gotten any results and stuff from it yet, from Amazon or anybody else?
No, not in the way of numbers, but I have gotten a lot of feedback, and reviews are really good, and it seems to really hit people in a lot of ways, but emotionally, and it resonates with people. It also reads like a fiction book, so even if you haven't walked a path similar, I think that there's a lot in the book that you can learn about addiction, that you can learn about supporting other people or friends or family members that may be walking that journey and need somebody to talk to. So I'm hoping that it's helpful in all of those ways, not just for the people who were like me.
Well, and it happens a lot.
Unfortunately.
Yes, my when I was 16, I came home from school and there was a police car in front of my house. Because I'd done something stupid the day before. and that happens to people and to kids. But sometimes, as an example, my older brother, he became addicted to a wide range of different, and he started off by, and by the way, while we get started in this, I want to make sure everybody understands something. If you have a mason jar in your house, you know what a mason jar is, where you can things like peaches and stuff, and you find the lid of the mason jar and it has two holes in it. There's a reason why it has two holes in it, because somebody is taking an intoxicant and they're hailing it as called huffing. And that in a lot of cases, he was doing that when he was 12. So that is that can be the first indication that there may be something coming down the pike. I hope that didn't happen in your case, but I just wanted to point that out, because there are people that are going, how come this has holes in it? And stuff. So in any event, I'm glad that you are here. Tell us your story. Tell us about your daughter and and I hope to have her on the podcast or on the radio show at one point down the road as well, and have the two of you together, because I saw pictures of you two. You look really happy and really appreciative of each other.
We are, but that took a lot of work, and
Oh yeah.
it didn't start out that way, and it took a lot to get here. So yes, we are very happy today, and I think that that's part of why we're able to share our story. If it was as ugly as it is and stayed ugly, nobody would want to hear it because it's too depressing. So because we're happy now, we can go back and share, how we got here, and hopefully it helps other people figure out how they can get in this to be in the same place with their child or loved one after going through something so hard. So my daughter's journey started when she was really young. I divorced her dad when she was 3. She has an older brother who is 2 years older than her, and they were always really, really close as little kids. But divorce definitely changes things for kids. It definitely has a negative impact on them, even if it's a divorce that needed to happen for the right reasons. And so that's not lost on me, but I think a little bit of it was at the time, because I did divorce their father because he had become abusive, and I needed to not have that be normal for my daughter, who was only 3 at the time. And maybe if it hadn't been for having a girl, I might have stayed in that relationship a lot longer, but I couldn't do it for her. So that relationship ended. And one of the first things that happened to my daughter that I was unaware of was when she would go visit her dad, and this would have been probably around the ages of 4 to 6, somewhere in there. She's very young. But she'd go visit her dad on weekends, and his neighbor was somebody that he had befriended, and this neighbor had a teenage son, and they would spend a lot of time over at that house, and the son was sexually abusing my daughter.
Oh man.
She never told anyone, and I'm not sure exactly how long it went on. I don't know how much of it she remembers. She knew it was wrong. But she didn't tell anyone until years later, when she was actually in treatment for her drug addiction. So it kind of started there. She was very young, experiencing divorce, experiencing sexual abuse from that teenager. And then growing up, a few years later, I got remarried. I'm still married to her stepdad today.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And I want to, before we continue, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that abuse is never acceptable.
Never.
It's never acceptable in any form, either verbal, physical, sexual. If that is happening to you, there's a number I want you to call, 988. Get the help that you need to get out of that situation, because the people around you depend upon you. And congratulations for having the intestinal fortitude to do that.
Thank you. It manifested in some continually ugly things going forward. So after I remarried, Reagan was 8 years old at that point. Her brother was 10, and remarrying was a trigger point for my ex-husband. He vowed to, I feel like, I don't know that he said this to me out loud, but he did intend to ruin my life. And not allow his children to be raised by another man, even though my ex-husband no longer lived in the same state as we did. He had moved away, but he did not like the fact that his children were being raised by somebody else. And he made it pretty miserable for all of us constantly. So he used the children to get to me, and really kind of tore their world in half, because to him, he wasn't okay with the new man, but he also wasn't okay with me. So he lied about me. He talked terribly about me. He did a lot of things that confused both of my children, because they lived with me full time, but they would go visit him for extended periods because he lived out of state. So like they would spend an entire summer there, or they would spend, their entire spring break and 2 weeks at Christmas or whatever. So when they went, they had plenty of time with him, and they would always come back different. And there was a sort of deprogramming time that would have to happen, especially with my son. But so fast forward, this went on for years, and there was always a lot of tension in our home. And it really became more about my son than my daughter, and she felt that. So when my son, who is 2 years older than her, turned 15, my ex-husband filed an emergency custody order as if we were abusing my son. Of course, my daughter was included in that, but she wasn't really nobody cared about her, and that's how she felt. And she was in 8th grade at that point, so she really was coming to terms with, this is all about my brother, and it is not about me, and nobody cares about me. So she adopted this belief that nobody loved her, that everybody lied, because every time her dad would say something about something that happened, she would ask me, and I would have a completely different story. I would like to think that mine was closer to the truth than his, but she never knew who to believe, and I never really defended myself against him. I didn't know all the things he was saying, so there was a lot that I couldn't defend, but I did know that there was something going on, and it wasn't good, and I felt helpless or powerless to do anything about it. So I couldn't, because I couldn't keep my kids from him. That legally, that wasn't an option. So so while this is happening, this custody thing is happening, she doesn't want to go live with her dad. She's got a life here and friends here, and this is where they were born. But my son had been brainwashed, for lack of a better word, coached about, all you have to do is tell a judge that at 15, if you want to go live with your dad, the judge will say, yes, okay, this is what you want. And that's the way that works. But it isn't how that works. And that's not how it worked. And ultimately, the kids did not go live with their dad. He lost the custody case. And then both her dad and her brother turned against her, blaming her that she didn't team up with them and help them do what they wanted. So now, not only does she think both of her parents are liars and don't care about her, she also lost her brother at that point because he was angry at her. So, and there was a lot of really ugly stuff. He treated her horribly. And at this point, very soon after that, they were in high school together, and he was really horrible to her. So she just became very depressed, although I will say she hid it pretty well. I didn't realize the depth of her pain, and she didn't share it with me, but she suffered in silence. And once he graduated, he left and he went to live with his dad with the intention of going to college. And for the last 9 years, we have been mostly estranged. So he bought into all of dad's stuff, and that's where that sits. But my daughter was still at home, and she lost her brother. She really didn't have much of a relationship with her dad, and she really didn't know what to think about me. And so on top of the stuff that happened to her when she was little, the first time she tried drugs in high school, she was pretty primed at that point because she was in so much pain. Yep. And the first time she tried drugs, it took all the pain away. And she thought, wow, I need more of this. And it started. I mean, it was like being at the top of a hill on a roller coaster and getting the feeling of happiness finally, or what she thought was happiness. And then she just, went right down, and then it didn't slow down. So once she got that feeling of the pain going away.
Euphoria, if nothing else.
Euphoria. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know that was happening, of course.
You're the last to know.
The last to know. I had no idea. I honestly still don't know. when that first time was. I know about when it was, but I can't think back and go, oh, I should have figured that out. I had no idea. And drugs was never in my life in any way. So that would not have been something that I would have even worried about. And I didn't. We had watched, I don't know if you remember that show, Intervention. That was one. Yeah. So that was popular when my kids were young. And I would watch that show and I would make them watch it and go, see, that's what drugs do. That's why you don't do drugs. It's terrible, And I thought, literally, when I found out that she was using, I was like, don't you remember watching that show? Like, I'm going, how are we here? I just really couldn't wrap my head around it. But so yeah, we've had those conversations. My kids were brought up in church and like all the normal stuff. We had a very, outside of all the tension and the things going on with their dad, our lives were fairly normal. For lack of, what's normal these days. But they played sports, we had an okay house, we lived in a decent part of town. We went to church every Sunday. They had friends, we had sleepovers, we took vacations, just, really just average family. And so to find out that my daughter was using drugs was a blow that I can't even hardly describe. And there was a young woman who.
Well, and Janelle, I want to stop you here because I need to take a break because your story is important, and then I'm going to introduce Rochelle, my teammate, and then we will be back in just a second. I want you to go to her website, and you can learn a lot more there. It's ourbeautifulrecovery.com. And Janelle Martin is our guest. Rochelle will be entering in just a second, but I want to play these for you because these are some of the things that we do for people. So we'll be right back, Janelle. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. In a dark room, a single candle was lit. That tiny flame chased away the shadows, filling the space with hope. Your courage, your kindness, and your light may seem small at times, but it can change someone's entire world. Never underestimate the power you already carry inside. Even the smallest flame can ignite a fire that transforms lives. You are listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. A sailor in a storm once battled waves so fierce they nearly sank his ship. He discovered storms, they don't last forever, but strong sailors do. Life will shake you, test you, and even try to break you. But if you hold steady and keep moving forward, the skies will clear, and when they do, you will see how powerful you have become. You are listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and Rochelle. She's here, and Rochelle's had a change of altitude, and so that's been bothering her a little bit. But Rochelle, how are you?
I am doing the best I can, and sorry for being late, Janelle. I am so thankful to be in this conversation with you, and I'd love for you to continue on your story. We are all ears.
Okay. I think we were at finding out that my daughter was using.
Well, and I got to ask you, Janelle, first of all, your ex-husband, he'd left the state and gone somewhere else. And then he was upset that you found happiness with another human being, another man, and he was a good guy. And so he was upset that this good guy was going to take care of his children because he must have been some kind of a narcissist.
Yes.
And that is really so too bad. But anyway, and that is instructive for our listeners, because if that rings true for you, guess what, kids? You might want to do something else. So go ahead and continue, Janelle.
Yeah. So it was July 4th. So my daughter would have been going into her senior year at this point very soon. I was at a friend's house actually, and they had a pool, and we were just going to chill for the day in the sun. And we had left Reagan at home really for the first time, probably ever, alone. And I got a message on Facebook from a classmate of hers. They had known each other since they were really young, and so they weren't super like close friends at the time, but they definitely knew each other, and were acquaintances for sure. And this girl, she's a girl at the time, she sent me a message and telling me of her concern for my daughter, that her drug use had been progressing, and she was very concerned about her well-being. And kind of, I share the whole message in the book. Like, you can read the exact message she sent me. What I don't share in the book is the photo she sent me of my daughter using drugs that she had posted on social media. And this young woman had taken a picture of that picture to send to me to prove to me that she wasn't lying. And I don't know that I would believed her honestly if I hadn't seen the picture. So I'm so grateful. I was grateful at the time. I was really upset at the time, but still grateful, because you can't do anything about something you have no idea about. So as hard as that was, and as painful as that was to have to realize, I knew that was really brave of her to do, and that she was doing it because she cared. And thank God she cared, because I don't know if my daughter would be here today, quite honestly, if she hadn't sent me that message. What I did with it was, I wanted to die. Like, I just could not even fathom. And of course, it ruined my whole day.
Oh yeah.
This was early in the day, and it ruined the whole day. And I didn't feel comfortable enough to actually share that message with anyone that day, because I didn't know what to think. And I didn't know what they would think of me, even though these are very good friends of mine. But that the things that the spiral your mind goes into when that happens is just, it's pretty horrible. And so we ended up leaving earlier that day because we had to get home to Reagan. And I didn't tell my husband until we got in the car. And I read him the message and showed him the picture. And I really expected him to be angry at her, because I was. And he wasn't. He was much more understanding at that time. He tried to reassure me that maybe this was just a phase, if she could just be experimenting, like, let's just talk to her and see. But yes, the boundary is no drugs in the house. We're not okay with any of that, and that can't happen. So we went home and talked to her. We ended up on the front porch. It was July 4th. We live in Houston. It is so blaringly hot. I don't know how or why. I don't remember why we didn't go inside. So we're on the porch sweating. Everyone's upset. She's crying, and we're begging her basically, what's wrong with you, and how do we help you not do this anymore? This is not okay. You can't stay here. You can't live here if this is what you're doing. And so she wanted a dog, and she wanted a counselor. She was sad. Okay, fine, whatever. I'll do whatever you want. You just can't do drugs. And she never said at that point that she wasn't going to do drugs anymore. And I really knew that at the time, that she really just never said those words. She never said much of really anything other than that she was sad and she wanted a dog, and she didn't like going to the school she was at. People didn't like her, whatever. It was all very sad. But I got her a counselor, and that, I thought that was going to fix everything. But I didn't know at the time that there are different counselors, and that there are some counselors that know a lot about addiction and drugs and alcohol, and then there are other counselors that don't. And I just got her a counselor. And so my daughter, as most teens are, and maybe even ones that are doing nefarious activities, they are very resourceful and very astute at knowing who they can fool and who they can't. So she very quickly realized this counselor had no idea about anything that she was dealing with. And she went to most of the sessions high. She didn't go to more than 3 or 4. So I think the first one she figured it out, and then after that she went high. And counselor never knew. And
Janelle,
so,
can I ask you, what was her drug of choice?
well, she would do anything, but her drugs of choice were marijuana, cocaine, and Molly. Those were the big ones. And cocaine and Molly were her favorites. But she's done most. She would do anything that was in the room. So,
So help us here. What is Molly?
it's MDMA. It's like ecstasy, like brings you up, which kind of makes sense if she was so depressed. Like she liked the euphoric of the cocaine and the uppers more than anything
What's so
else.
sad and crazy about that though too is when you come off of it, it's tenfolds. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, but she didn't come off of it much. Like she was doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Because you do to avoid that, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it if coming down from it is a bad thing, then you don't ever want to do the bad thing and come down from it. So you start managing your medications like you would if it was a pharmaceutical.
Ibuprofen.
You try and keep it in your system so that it can be consistent, and then you can hide it because you're not falling down all over the place, and you can hide your behavior a little bit better. Is that kind of the way it is?
Yep, absolutely. And she was good at it, and I was working. Her stepdad was working, and we raised our kids like she had a job, and so she had her own money, and we had provided both of our kids with used cars when they got their driver's licenses, so they had autonomy, and we trusted them, and they were responsible for the most part. And she was still actually responsible. Even when she was using, at least early on, she was going to work. She was doing all the things. So there was nothing that I thought was off, other than I have a pretty strong intuition. So there was definitely the times where I thought that's an odd thing for her to do or say. But I still never went to drugs. But now after being clued in, even then it was hard for me to go, God, she must still be using. Now, my husband, since he's the stepdad, he's not quite as emotionally invested as me. He was a very heavy voice of reason during that time, and he kept in my ear about, I think this is not getting better. I think this is getting worse. What I'm seeing as a problem, kind of thing. And I didn't want to hear that. I really didn't, and it would make me mad. But he was right. He was right. And I'm actually thankful for that now. And I became thankful for it then, because this whole thing sped up so quickly that I could see that she was deteriorating in front of our eyes. She was no longer really bathing, washing her hair. She had very long, beautiful hair, and she would wear it up in a messy bun, but like messy slept in kind of bun all the time. And then she's tiny. She's about all of them, maybe 105 pounds and maybe 5'3", this tiny. But she would wear big, baggy, black, oversized clothes that just did nothing for her. And she'd just kind of slink in the house and go to her room. And then she'd kind of slink back out when she'd have to go somewhere. And it was evident. I felt like the light was going out of her. But I will say too, at the time, it happened so quickly. And when you see someone all the time, it's more subtle than when you only see them every couple of months or whatever. So I think I was in denial at the time too, not really knowing how to address it or what was for sure happening, but definitely those are signs of using. And she quit playing volleyball, which was the love of her life at the time. She gave that up, decided she didn't really want to play anymore. And she gave me all kinds of really great excuses why, or reasons why. And, I wasn't one to force anything on her. At that point, it's like, if you want to play, play. If you don't, you're almost an adult. She was in her senior year at that time. So, but that was a definite red flag too. And it really broke my heart. But by Christmas time, things had gotten really bad. And I caught her the second time. She was somewhere she shouldn't have been. And I happened to, divine intervention, I think. I happened to catch her. And there was a big blow up, although she was so high at the time, like she was very much like closed off. I mean, like almost zombie like. And she tells me now and in the book, like she was still high at the time. I didn't really realize that. I was really mad. I did something that I didn't think about ever doing prior to that is when I asked her if she'd pass a drug test, she said no. And I said, well, we had told you before that you can't live here if you're doing drugs and you have to stop. You can't do drugs anymore. And she said, I'm not going to stop. I don't want to. And there was nothing else for me to say. She said it so deadpan, like she didn't open that door to, this is not a discussion. This is, I'm not doing that. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. So I dialed her dad on my phone and put it on speaker and threw it down on her bed. And when he answered, I told him what happened and that she had actually a trip planned to see him 3 days after that. And I said, when she gets on the plane, she's not coming home. And that was that. So I sent her to live with her dad at that point. And this was the middle of her senior year.
Wow.
And we're talking with Janelle Martin, and we need to take our halftime break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about her continuing addiction, and also that there was a moment in time when she went into rehab. And I got to tell you, when a family goes into rehab, it's the whole family that goes into rehab. It isn't just one individual. And Brachelle is here. So, Brachelle, take us a break, please.
Yes, thank you for being with us again. We are with Janelle Martin. Go check out her website while we are on the break. And me and Kevin will be just back to continue the conversation.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Here are some points to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. You know, some say leadership is about getting the work done, about pushing forward, no matter the cost. But what's the cost of a team with no purpose? What if a single act of support, a single moment of genuine grit could change everything? What if leadership was a catalyst? Because true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about empowering others to find their purpose. It's about leading with passion and igniting the fire in everyone around you, creating a culture of teamwork and common purpose. A true leader finds this culture by enthusiastic purpose and team development, making each team member feel empowered to create, improve, and execute their tasks with genuine passion and a strong belief in the company's mission and focus. In other words, lead with purpose. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and Brachelle. What did you think of that, Brachelle? You've never seen that before.
I haven't. There's a lot of my face in there.
There is.
That's what I think. But I love it. That is such a powerful message, Kevin. You word everything so perfectly. So I'm glad that we put that together. Thank you, team. We love our team. I have to say that on live air. And we are here with Janelle Martin, who is telling an extraordinary story. And I want you to be able to finish because I'd like to ask you about how you dealt with forgiving yourself and the guilt you may have felt that was completely aside from her situation. So I'll let you continue.
Yeah. So she went to live with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was terrifying for me because I'd already lost one child and I felt like I had lost her too. I did not know what to expect from that experience, but I knew that I had set a boundary and I needed to keep it. I really did not want drugs in my home, and I wasn't going to give up my life to follow her around and treat her like a child because she wasn't. She was about to be 18 and she needed to be able to make the right decisions for herself. So I did what few parents do, I think, and that is not to say that I did everything right. I'm not saying that. This is not a blueprint book for what to do when your child is using drugs, but this is what happened in our situation. I did have a place to send her. It wasn't ideal, but looking back, I think it was because she didn't last long at her dad's. They had never had a real father-daughter relationship that was healthy. And she really thought going there, she was going to be able to do whatever she wanted because he had never really been a dad to her. And She's very ticked off at him from all of the stuff she'd endured from him prior to that. So it didn't last long, and literally, and I go through this in the book, it's really amazing how fast she spiraled downward even further, and we were in crisis by March. So she went on January 1st, and by mid-March, she was uncontrollable and then severe crisis. So at that point, I found myself trying to find a place that, like rehab. I mean, I didn't know what I was even looking for. I was looking for help, help with her. She couldn't come home. She asked to. I said no, because she was clearly still using, and never said she wanted to quit doing that. But she didn't want to be with her dad anymore. They had come to a physical altercation, and cops had been called, and so we just had to do something. So I got on, trusty Google, somebody, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm looking for help and praying fervently that I can find something that will save her life. And because she was going to run away, and that wasn't going to be good. So I happened to find a place that was actually geared toward teens and adolescent recovery, but it was a 2.5-year program, and it was in Phoenix, Arizona. Her dad had moved to Arizona by then, so this is where she was. But where they lived was about 2.5 hours from Phoenix. So neither of us were close to this place, but they assured me that if we could get her there, they would keep her, not against her will, but that they could get her to agree to enter treatment. And that's what happened. She did residential there. She did outpatient there, and she stayed for another 6 months after that. And after she got out of residential, it was about 6 weeks or so, I went to visit her, spend the weekend with her. And that was the first time that we got to sit down and really talk about things and start to put those pieces together of her experience and my experience, and try to understand each other. And we had never done that before, but that was the beginning of rebuilding a relationship with her. And that is something I'll never forget. That's when she told me that she'd been sexually abused. I hadn't known until then. And there's a lot to come to terms with. So after that visit, I got very involved in the parent program there. So I went to meetings over the phone because I was in Texas every Thursday night, and I got a sponsor, and I worked through the 12 steps. I did my own recovery there, and really initially just wanted to do it because I wanted to know what she was learning, and I wanted to be able to talk to her more about what she was learning and what was going on and what her recovery would look like. And what happened was I found my own, and that was really helpful because I did have to do some deep reflection, and I did make amends to her, just like she had done to us. And I think her seeing me do what I was doing also really showed that I cared about her, that I loved her. Nobody else in her family did that. I did it. And I would go visit her every couple of months, and we would spend the weekend together, and we would talk like we had never talked before. And we were able to rebuild our relationship in ways that I don't think would have been possible without recovery, for sure. Being vulnerable with your child and letting her know, that you have some regrets, and that you see where things could have been maybe done differently, or we wish we could have done things differently, but these were my choices, and maybe I didn't have a good option, and I did the best I could, and I'm still sorry. It goes a long way with building that relationship back.
Janelle, I need to insert this here, because your story is not unique. It happens all across this country. And one of the pieces that we play is about Covenant House, because what ends up happening in some cases, like as an example, had you not intervened, found a place for her, took her to that place, she would have left her father's home would have become homeless, somebody would have then reached out to her with either a place to stay or drugs or both. And that's how most kids, that's how they become um, involved with prostitution. They get trafficked and all of that because they're in a very, very vulnerable place.
Yes.
So if you have friends or family, and if any of this rings true for you, you need to get help as quickly as possible and not let them, because you don't want drugs in your house or whatever, just say, forget it, you're done, because that leads to, and a lot of times it leads to addiction and death. And that's not, so you should feel, Janelle, you should be really, really pleased that you made that. And I know Reagan is, because she's all better now, and your relationship has been healed. And I did want to say one more thing that you mentioned about your son. He's still just a kid. And he's in his mid to late 20s now. He's going to wake up one day and he's going to recognize that what he thought to be true wasn't, and he will reach out to you. And just be patient with him. He's a 20-something-year-old dude, and I used to be a 20-something-year-old dude. Purcell's around 20-something-year-old dudes.
Yeah.
They ain't that smart sometimes, is they, Purcell?
No, they could use a little bit of help, but that we all can use that help. And Janelle, I have to ask you, did you ever think about calling the police on her? My mom called the cops on me, so that's why I have to ask.
I did. Because when she was in my home, she was still respectful.
Yeah.
I didn't have the kind of problems with her that she had when she went to her dad's. So there was not really an instance where I thought about calling the police. She wasn't violent. We didn't argue. I never knew that she was doing drugs in my home. She was, but I didn't know it. And I didn't know it where I saw it and said, I'm going to call the cops and, you're going to have a consequence here. Those situations never happened in my home. Now they did, I believe, in his home, and cops were called. He did call the cops because she was out of control and running away. And she did plan on dying. She didn't plan to see life past her 18th birthday. I didn't know that then, but that was the road that she was on. And she was on a speeding train to that because her birthday was just a mere few months away from when she entered treatment. So the intervention that happened, it was very timely, Kevin. You're right. And if you can't or don't intervene like that and get your child help before they turn 18, most of the time it's another 10 years before they actually get help. So there's a lot that can happen in that 10-year period of them using wherever they are, whatever they're doing, and it's usually not good at all. So I didn't know that at the time. I just knew my kid, and I knew she was in crisis. So, and most parents do know their children. And I want to just say, don't be afraid. They're not going to want to go to recovery or treatment. They're not going to want to, but you're still the parent, so you get a say so in that. Yep. So do it
before they're 18. After they're 18, all bets are off.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
They can then refuse treatment and say, "Oh no, there's nothing wrong with me. That mom of mine is a nutcase."
Right. Right.
I said the same thing.
It's amazing, Janelle, that I find out more about Purcell because I had no idea that her mom called the police on her. That's a story that we'll have to save for another time.
Yeah.
But,
Yes. I was very troubled, and hearing you talk about this makes me emotional because me and my mom got that. I mean, my entire life, I grew up in a drug and alcohol rehab with her until I was about 3. And then, you'd think, well, she's got it figured out. She experienced all the rest of her family. She's not going to go down that road. And for me, it wasn't really harsh things, but it was the way it was affecting me. And that's what's crazy. I love how you say that, and I want everybody to hear that loud and clear. Kids don't always show it. For me, I wasn't on the extreme drugs, but my mental state of mind was out of control. And that took over before any drugs. I was scared, but I had the same thing. I don't want to live like there's no point in this. I just, we're going to have fun. We're going to die either way. And I don't want people putting restrictions on me before I die. And so I know I can relate to her and where her mind was and not seeing the purpose in pretty much anything. But then there's that side that like it all hits you. And to build that relationship back with your mom is something I really can't put words to. It's so powerful, especially for you. As the mother, I even think about my mom and I'm like, wow, like you went through that with me, achieved that, and then had to deal with me even after teenage years when I was an adult and I was off of the rail, and she was clearly seeing there's something wrong with my daughter, but if I say too much, she's going to pull away even more. And that's what it took, was for her to just sit down and say, honey, I'm worried and I love you so much and I don't know what to do to help you. Because there was always, well, we're going to do this or we're going to do that. And I set the rules and I tell you. And it was just like, I want you to help me help you. And that for you to break down and come to terms with her with that, no matter when it happened, will build the most powerful relationship. So I'm very thankful that you guys got that. And I know we need to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to kind of talk about you and how you were through this and where you're at now and what you learned. Because if she wouldn't have been that child that gave you those struggles, you would have never had to learn those things. So it probably taught you things you wouldn't have never understood if you hadn't have gone through that with her. And maybe even how you've been able to help somebody else. I'd love to hear about that. So go ahead, Kevin. You can take us to break.
Brilliantly said, Brachelle. And we're talking with Janelle Martin. She's written the book. And you know the name of the book, Brachelle?
I don't. Oh, don't kill me.
Losing
but you do?
Her, Finding Us. Janelle Martin. It is a great read, and it's very instructive. And when we do come back, I do want to talk also about the education that a parent these days should have about drugs and alcohol, because so that they can look for the signs before it gets down. Oh, Johnny would never do that until he shows up throwing up on the kitchen floor because he's had too much to drink, kind of thing. Not that I know that from experience, by the way. Anyway, so we will be right back. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. And well, hey, I got you going too, Janelle. Thank you so much. And she's dancing a little bit along with Brachelle. I don't dance. I'm sorry. But anyway, Brachelle, re-ask the question, and I would love for your input here.
Okay, well, we can make it short, Kevin. There's like a million things we could continue to talk about with her. If we have
by the way, before we do that, I did want to say that I've already twisted her arm, and I'm going to make her come back and bring Reagan with her so that we can interview both of them at the same time. I think that would be a powerful episode. Anyway, go ahead, Brachelle.
Yeah, really just covering, if you could cover how, like, what you've taken from this and how you've been able to interpret it into your own life and how it's changed you as a person. And then I'd love you to lead into Kevin's question, because that is more important than anything else.
Yeah, so it changed everything about my life, like literally everything. Being so terrified of losing your child. I mean, There's nothing, I don't think there's anything that rivals it. So going through recovery and really rebuilding my relationship with my daughter, and that it took a long time, but my life took a turn. I became so immersed in the parent program and loving the 12 steps. I really wish they taught it in schools. I think kids could benefit from that from the time they're young. It's a way of life. And I didn't know that. I thought 12 steps was just for people with addiction problems. But it really isn't. It's for everyone. And I really took that to heart. And at the same time, this is sort of happening. My trajectory in my career just changed. I became an IASIS microcurrent neurofeedback provider, which is a brain healing technology. And only because I met someone who started a nonprofit that wanted to help people in recovery from drug addiction. And this brain healing technology was something that he thought was going to be super helpful, because people don't just do drugs. Typically, they do that because they have anxiety and depression, and they have all kinds of things going on that they need help with. And so this system helps with that, because if your brain is functioning well, then you typically don't suffer with all of those conditions, and it can help with cravings and things like that. So when I heard that, I decided that sounded like something I really wanted to do. So I badgered him enough to hire me and train me, and I got to start doing that. And Reagan happened to be my first client. So she had come home from treatment after about a year. She had relapsed, and then she had gotten sober, and she was sober again for the second time when I had started doing this job. And my boss let me treat her for free. And it's super helpful for her. Like, it was just really life-changing for her. And that was really cool. So I worked for him for a year, and then I started my own practice. And in the process of that, I determined this is a really amazing technology, and it stands alone a lot of the time, but it doesn't take away somebody's trauma. So there were a lot of clients I was seeing that really needed a counselor too at the same time and help with that. And I wasn't qualified for that, but I'm certainly a good listener, and especially after all I'd been through. So I worked to try to find some counselors that I could partner with, but that didn't come to fruition. So I decided, I guess I needed to become a counselor. So I got my chemical dependency counselor license, and then I went back and got my master's degree, and I became a licensed professional counselor. And recently I got my doctorate in functional medicine, and I have a practice called the Mind Connection, and we are a holistic mental health practice. So since I have an addiction background, I really am against medications, pharmaceuticals, all the substances. And so we're an option, let's say, to traditional psychotherapy and psychotropic medication. We help people get off medications or avoid having to take them by balancing the brain physically. Of course, I offer counseling. We have a natural health store in our office that can replace anything you could buy in a Walgreens with natural products. So we're helping your body be healthy and heal itself, supporting that. We do brain spotting for trauma. I have an infrared sauna in my office. That's who I am now, and that's since this situation happened. The whole addiction thing happened, and so I can't stop learning. I can't stop loving what I'm doing. I see beautiful things. I also still work with parents in my office. Every Wednesday night, I do Parents of Addicted Loved Ones meetings here, free support group meetings, and that I don't know that I'll ever be able to let go of either. So just giving back.
Congratulations, Janelle.
you.
Holy damn. You took it from a mom, and then you said, hold up, I'm going to be your friend. I'm going to be a counselor. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this. And I have to ask you, because I know somebody out there is wondering, is that store that you have physically, does it happen to be an online thing as well?
No, everything we do is in person. We believe in connection that way. And the virtual stuff is difficult to maintain as deeply of a connection as I think is necessary, because I think, if you know anything about addiction, isolation and disconnection is a really large proponent of addiction. And so we are more of your personable, we give hugs, we're those people. And Reagan came to work with me. She asked to join my practice 3 years ago. So we work together now.
Yay!
Oh, good for you. That is a great continuing story. Now, I did want to mention this because my brother-in-law, former brother-in-law, and he has since passed. He took his own life. But he was in cocaine. It, he dabbled in cocaine quite a little bit, and so he went to rehab. And during rehab, he told his story about how growing up was a problem and how his mom and dad were difficult, and mom did this. And so the counselor said to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, we would love to have you come to talk with you and have a session with Bruce and you two. And mom said, absolutely not. His problem is his problem. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't do anything wrong. And she just didn't understand anything about the process. So don't be that person that does that, because everything is interconnected and it's all about everything. And you're part of, if you're mom or dad, you're part of everything. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We do hear that a lot. It's not my problem. It's the child's problem. And so I don't need help. And that is really detrimental to the health and recovery of your child.
And it's a bald-faced lie too.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the fear of not being able to take the recognition to say, hey, I have my part to play in this. And that's not only with parents, but with anybody. If you have somebody calling you from somewhere and saying, hey, your friend is in here, I've heard that come up a lot more recently with my generation of kids who's going to get, I still go to Odyssey House. I love them. They have events every year. I, for the first time this year in my life, saw people from my high school in the program. And a lot of them talked about how hard it was for them to still have relationships with other people, whether they were still doing drugs or not, just because a part of your recovery, everybody needs to hear this, a part of your recovery is to go back and make amends. And that's with everyone, everything, because that's how you heal yourself too. And if somebody doesn't want to give you an apology, that's fine. But it can be really detrimental, especially to like people I was in high school with who will say, hey, you remember that girl? Well, she's the one who even introduced this to me. And I've wanted to talk to her because now I want to help her. And she's off the face of the earth. So this isn't just with parents. It's with your friends, your cousins, somebody you see twice a year, if they've had their part to play. And to be open, I've had the same thing happen with me, just with people that are like, hey, Rochelle, I know we used to be in this situation and this and that. And I just want to talk to you about it. And I'm so open, you know what? Because I've healed what I needed to in myself and I know where I was. And so I can sit down and say, hey, I understand that and I'm so sorry. Let me help you explain, or let me help you understand that was not intentional. Because a lot of times, all of these things that come into a part to play with someone who's going through the addiction, it's so easy for them to blame other people because they don't see any different. So just keep that in mind. I mean, when you're around somebody and they're struggling with addiction or trying to come out of it, be very careful and just come from a place of love, right, Janelle? Because it doesn't help. And if not, don't say anything. Stay away.
Right. Stay away, right.
Yeah.
I really think, Rochelle, that you will love this book because it's written from both of our perspectives. Okay. So every chapter you get what was going on with me, and then you also get what was going on with Reagan. And I do think there's a lot in there that you will resonate with. And that was what makes the book so powerful. It's the one that I wanted to read when I didn't know anything and needed information. I wanted the whole picture, and this book gives you the whole picture. I mean, we were not on the same page, and that it's clear in this book, at least not initially. And some of her experiences, I even learned because I interviewed her for this book and I transcribed her words. And so, and I used everything she said, the way she said it. So I think that makes this book different and helpful.
Yeah. Tell your story.
Yeah.
And Janelle, we have run out of time. It's gone so fast. But go to our website, which is ourbeautifulrecovery.com, and get the book Losing Her and Finding Us. That is a wonderful story. You are awesome to be here, and I want to thank you so much. And Reagan is going to come with you next time, because I really want to continue this conversation, because I think it will be very uplifting to people to see that there is darkness in all of our lives, but at one point the light can shine through, and it may just be a candle being lit. Might be just the thing that you need. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. So nice to meet y'all.
Well, we're not done. We ain't done with you yet. We got to do more.
Right. Awesome.
Rochelle, anything else before we go? Oh, you're muted, or your microphone went away.
Oh, no.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got.